Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full moon in Virgo, which is occurring on March 7th. And I believe this is going to be the case for everyone across the globe. I live in the Midwest of the United States in the Central Time Zone, and it's going to be at 7:41 a.m. my time. So if you live in Europe, it will be early afternoon. If you live in the Southern Hemisphere, I guess it will still be on the 7th, but maybe late at night. And one of the names of this full moon, because the Native Americans in North America, they named the different full moons different things according to different tribes. And this is the full worm moon, but there are other names as well. One of them is the sugar moon, and this is due to the maple trees, the sap that becomes maple syrup. That sap starts to flow, I guess, in March. And yeah, I think a lot of people associate maple syrup with Canada, but they actually produce it in the northern states in the United States, like Vermont, for instance. So, in any case, this is going to be at 16 degrees of Virgo. At every full moon, the sun is in direct opposition. So the sun is at 16 degrees of Pisces. And so we have this dynamic, if you will, or this opposition between the planets that represent the 12th house with Pisces and the 6th house with Virgo. And the 6th house in astrology that Virgo rules deals in part with health. And full moons can bring something to the light that has been kept in the dark. Sometimes these are secrets, so it can be deliberately deceptive. Sometimes, obviously there could be some kind of eureka moment, revelation that is not, necessarily that somebody was doing something nefarious. But we could see something with health issues kind of come to the forefront. And it could, I'm not going to say it's going to be one way or the other. I have my own opinions on that because of what has been going on thus far. But to me, and I don't know if this is borne out in reality, for some astrologers who are experts in the houses and what they represent and everything, to me, because Virgo is connected to health, I always think of it as natural health. I always think of it as herbalism rather than pharmaceutical drugs. And I think that I might have read that somewhere. I've read so many things, but I also associate vegetarianism with Virgo and any kind of alternative health. I think Virgo is um, where the apothecary, isn't that where the herbal remedies are? But it's an earth sign, so it's dealing with materials from the earth. And so synthetics would not really resonate with that. But the other thing that Virgo is it's the house of your daily routine, so how you order your time, as well as the service that you provide to others, otherwise known as your work. The 12th house that Pisces represents is the mystical side of life. It is not practical. Virgo is practical. It's water, so it's emotional. Virgo is very rational. Yes, I do think of being rational as the opposite of being emotional. But I have the moon in Virgo in my chart, so um, I said that before, and somebody I think took offense to it. Well, emotions aren't irrational. Well, maybe, maybe not. But the 12th house is the dream state, past lives, karma, self undoing, and it's the spiritual. When we talk about the body mind complex, you could call it the mind. I would say that the mental and the spiritual are really very much connected. So, recognizing these things about how your emotions impact your health. But the other thing about this is that we are seeing on that same day that Saturn is going into Pisces. So I find this absolutely phenomenal because to me, this is really showing that uh, Saturn is going into a sign that it really doesn't have a lot in common with. Saturn is very disciplined. Saturn would have a lot more in common with Virgo than it would with Pisces any day of the week because Saturn rules Capricorn and Capricorn is an earth sign like Virgo. And just the kind of keywords that we associate with Saturn, we could really look at Virgo and say, hey, that's pretty similar to Virgo in some respects. But Pisces, not. But I think that there is really like to me, a synchronicity here because it's almost like saying that the sheriff is in town, meaning that even with the deception on a mass level, that Neptune has kind of been all about because it's been in Pisces and it's really enhanced what that represents. And as long for months and months, we've had a square between Mars and Neptune because Mars has been in Gemini for so long, and we even had like with when Jupiter was in Sag and Saturn was in Sagittarius, we had squares from those planets to Neptune. So there's been a lot of that going on. And now that Saturn is going into Pisces, I think that it's almost like a higher authority because Saturn is very worldly. It rules the 10th house of career, and that is, at the top of the chart, and it is all of our reputations in the world, but that is only in the world, and the world for us is temporary. So the fact that it's going into a sign like Pisces means that not only does it affect how Pisces is expressed, but it also affects how Saturn can do its job, and that means that it kind of spiritualizes this very authoritarian and rigid influence. A square that is forming at the time of this full moon is between the moon and Mars. The moon in Virgo, Mars in Gemini. And when there is a square between the moon and Mars, whether it's in your personal chart or in the chart of an astrological event like a full moon, for instance, there is this emotional volatility because Mars can represent anger and the moon is just emotions in general. And the square produces frustration. Now, interestingly, both of the signs that the square uh, is uh, formed by are both signs ruled by Mercury. So a lot of the volatility, or we could also say the rash actions that can ensue, can be from on kind of like spurred on by verbal means, and that can include news that we hear, but that news may actually be deceptive. And um, one reason for this is because, for instance, the moon is opposing Mercury, and the moon is opposing Neptune. By the way, the sun is also in conjunction with Neptune at the time of this full moon. But with the moon opposing Mercury, it's really like this is a great example of the irrational discourse that can occur, where and this is what propaganda is actually all about, because it tries to um, trigger people's emotions, which would be connected to the moon. Mercury is information. So they are opposed to one another. And by the way, Mercury is in Pisces. So when Mercury is in Pisces, um, distortions are to be expected because of that connection with Neptune. And I mean, it's not to say that Neptune is this evil planet and it doesn't have any redeeming qualities. It's really about this world more than anything else, and who is trying to wrestle power from others, and that is how it is done, through disinformation. Now, it goes without saying that we should always do our own research about what we hear from the outer world. But this at this time it is more crucial than it's ever been, because things are heating up. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, and everybody else has too, but you can see that there's more, kind of ferocity in terms of what is being promoted, because and it's like I've seen this myself, even with people that I follow, where I think part of it is that it just feeds upon itself. So it's very important to also not to indulge, because you may feel like you just want to understand what's going on, but you're losing your own sense of equilibrium sometimes when you do that, because first of all, you might be manipulated, and then that's going to throw you off kilter. But also, um, what is the ultimate value of what it is that you are seeking in that moment? Because remember that full moons are ultimately an emotional experience. Some full moons may feel more emotional than others. This one may be more on the cerebral level, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and you may not necessarily feel it like in terms of your relationships at a deep level. Although for some people, lies may be revealed, because there is so much emphasis on communication with this double Mercury, with some of these aspects, that it might actually affect some of you that way. And the sun is in conjunction with Mercury, so it really emphasizes the media, communication, and yada yada. Um, the sun is also squaring off to Mars. And why this is important is that the sun can sometimes represent the ego, and Mars is anger. So when you see these stories about road rage and things like that, it's when people feel dissed and they feel like they have to one up somebody else. So look at these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean the sun and the moon both squaring off to Mars. So that is definitely very volatile. The saving grace is that we're talking about Pisces and Virgo, and these signs, in and of themselves, I think are gentler than some of the Aries energy or the Scorpio or something like that. But it doesn't mean that because obviously, if the same type of energy is generated, you're going to have some people running around who have short fuses. So I mean, this is a no-brainer. We would say this at all times, but we don't have to add fuel to the fire. When we see somebody is agitated, we can choose to short circuit it by not giving it more energy and not getting carried away. I mean, even if somebody tries to goad you, that would be a very good idea. Now, we have a conjunction at this time between Venus and Jupiter. This is really good for money. And so I was looking to see where Venus was, but Venus is still in Aries, so I should have figured that out because I know Jupiter's in Aries. But yeah, so that's really good. So I don't want to say everything is just like, uh, kind of iffy. There's a trine between Mars and Saturn, which is great for productive work, for just kind of like getting into some task. And certainly the full moon in Virgo is going to be a great time for spring cleaning, at least in the northern hemisphere. Of course, in the southern hemisphere, you could call it autumn cleaning, I guess. But yeah, because Virgo is all about being a clean freak. And so this can be very productive work that you're doing in that regard. Um, and yeah, so I'm not going to talk too much about this. I just wanted to bring this up. There's a conjunction between Venus and Chiron. And the reason that I think this is really nice is because it can, for some people, if you are meeting a new love interest, this person may be somebody who can assist in your healing. Nobody can heal for you, but they can be a catalyst for your healing. And that can be a beautiful thing. So I do feel that with the sun in Pisces, and even Venus in Aries gets a bad rap for being very kind of maybe even combative uh, in or competitive in relationships, or I don't know, argumentative. But it's actually a very romantic, ardently romantic kind of a sign. Fire energy is romantic too, as well as water. Um, so that's really good. And let's see if there's anything else that's really awesome going on here. Well, I think that well, Jupiter is also forming a conjunction with Chiron. I think that with Saturn going into Pisces, this is going to help people who are beginning their awakening process, because we do have a lot of people who are starting to awaken specifically in this time frame, uh, because the awakening is quickening at this time all over the planet, because of everything that has been going on. It has, I was going to say it has forced awakening, but that's not really what I mean. And even those people who consider themselves already on the spiritual path, I think, a lot of us have also gotten a spiritual upgrade. And these are all just kind of terms or labels. They don't really have an official meaning as far as I'm concerned. But it feels like, you know what it feels like? It feels like you're adding layers to whatever it is that you already knew about or experienced directly, that you have additional information to work with. And even your vibration you may feel new and improved. So the point I'm making is that the Virgo energy of this full moon is really asking for a groundedness in your spiritual explorations. And Saturn going into Pisces kind of really hits that home, because Saturn is about foundations, and Pisces being ruled by Neptune, it's all about dissolving. It's all about becoming at one with the universe and each other. And both of these, both the planet Neptune as well as Saturn, they have their own drawbacks. So when they come together like this, they, enhance the other, they strengthen the other. So I feel that these people who are just starting to wake up, having Saturn going into Pisces will help assist them in being able to make sense of their new way of looking at things. Whereas some of us may have to dive in the deep end of the pool and just kind of, work our way from there. And it's sometimes it's better to have that structure in place. And part of this, I feel, is going to be that everything becomes more and more mainstream. You could think of Saturn as part of, all of the structures in the world. This is why Pluto in Capricorn has really been putting the wrecking ball on these outworn, structures that need to be um, rebuilt. So, anyway, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful full moon in Virgo. Take care. Bye.